and they were getting bored. Why couldn't he stop talking and let them drink his health? But Bilbo did not sing or recite. He paused for a moment. Thirdly, and finally he said, "I wish to make an announcement." He spoke this last word so loudly and suddenly that everyone sat up who still could. "I regret to announce that, though, as I said, 271 years is far too short a time to spend among you. This is the end. I am going. I am leaving now. Goodbye." He stepped down and vanished. There was a blinding flash of light, and the guests all blinked. When they opened their eyes, Bilbo was nowhere to be seen. 144 flabbergasted hobbits sat speechless. Old Dodo Proudfoot removed his feet from the table and stamped. Then there was a dead silence until suddenly, after several deep breaths, every Baggins boffin to Grab Chub, Burrows, Brace Turtle Goodbody Hornblower, and Proudfoot began to talk at once. It was generally agreed that the joke was in very bad taste, and more food and drink were needed to cure guests of shock and annoyance. "He's mad, I always said so," was probably the most popular comment. Even the two with a few exceptions. Little Bilbo's behavior was absurd. For the moment, most of them took it for granted that his disappearance was nothing more than a ridiculous prank, but old Rory Brandybuck was not so sure. Neither age nor an enormous dinner had clouded his wits, and he said to his daughter-in-law, "Esmeralda, there's something fishy in this. My dear, I believe that Mad Baggins is off again. Silly old fool, but why worry? He hasn't taken the victuals with him." He called loudly to Frodo to send the wine round again. Frodo was the only one present who had said nothing. For some time he had sat silent beside Bilbo's empty chair, and ignored all remarks and questions. He had enjoyed the joke, of course, even though he had been in the know. He had difficulty in keeping from laughter at the indignant surprise of the guests, but at the same time he felt deeply troubled. He realized suddenly that he loved the old hobbit dearly. Most of the guests went on eating and drinking, and discussing Bilbo Baggins's oddities, past and present, but the Sackville Bagginses had already departed. In wrath, Frodo did not want to have any more to do with the party. He gave orders for more wine to be served. Then he got up and drained his own glass silently, "To the health of Bilbo," and slipped out of the pavilion. As for Bilbo Baggins, even while he was making his speech, he had been fingering the golden ring in his pocket, his magic ring that he had kept secret for so many years. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and he was never seen by any hobbit in Hobbiton again. He walked briskly back to his home, and stood for a moment listening with a smile to the din in the pavilion and to the sounds of merrymaking in other parts of the field. Then he went in, he took off his party clothes, folded up and wrapped in tissue paper his embroidered silk waistcoat, and put it away. Then he put on quickly some old, untidy garments, and fastened round his waist a worn leather belt. On it, he hung a short sword in a battered black leather scabbard. From a locked drawer smelling of old mothballs, he took out an old cloak and hood. They had been locked up as if they were very precious, but they were so patched and weather-stained that their original color could hardly be guessed. It might have been dark green. They were rather too large for him. He then went into his study, and from a large strongbox took out a bundle, wrapped in old cloths and a leather-bound manuscript, and also a large bulky envelope. The book and bundle he stuffed into the top of a heavy bag that was standing there already nearly full. Into the envelope he slipped his golden ring and its fine chain, and then sealed it and addressed it to Frodo. At first he put it on the mantelpiece, but suddenly he removed it and stuck it in his pocket. At that moment, the door opened and Gandalf came quickly in. "Oh. Hello," said Bilbo. "I wondered if you would turn up." "I am glad to find you visible," replied the wizard, sitting down in a chair. "I wanted to catch you and have a few final words. I suppose you feel that everything has gone off splendidly and according to plan?" "Yes, I do," said Bilbo, though that flash was surprising. "It quite startled me, let alone the others. A little addition of your own, I suppose it was." You have wisely kept the ring secret all these years. And it seemed to me necessary to give your guests something else. That would seem to explain your sudden vanishing. Time would spoil my joke. Oh, you are an interfering old busybody, laughed Bilbo. But I expect you know best. As usual, I do when I know anything. But I don't feel too sure about this whole affair. It has now come to the final point. You've had your joke, and alarmed or offended most of your relations, and given the whole Shire something to talk about, for 9 days or 99 more likely. Are you going any further? Yes, I am. I feel I need a holiday. A very long holiday, as I have told you before. Probably a permanent holiday. I don't expect I shall return. In fact, I don't mean to, and I have made all arrangements. I am old Gandalf. I don't look it, but I'm beginning to feel it in my heart of hearts. Well preserved, indeed, he snorted. Why? I feel all thin. Sort of stretched, if you know what I mean. Like butter that has been scraped over too much bread. That can't be right. I need a change or something. Gandalf looked curiously and closely at him. No, it does not seem right. He said thoughtfully, no. After all, I believe your plan is probably the best. Well, I've made up my mind anyway. I want to see mountains again. Gandalf Mountains. And then find somewhere where I can rest. In peace and quiet. Without a lot of relatives prying around and a string of confounded visitors hanging on the bell. I might find somewhere where I can finish my book. I have thought of a nice ending for it. And he lived happily ever after to the end of his days. Gandalf laughed. I hope he will. Nobody will read the book. However, it ends. Oh, they may in years to come. Frodo has read some already. As far as it has gone, you'll keep an eye on, won't you? Yes, I will. 2 eyes as often as I can spare them. He would come with me, of course, if I asked him. In fact, he offered to once, just before the party. But he does not really want to yet. I want to see the wild country again before I die. And the mountains. But he is still in love with the Shire. With the woods and the fields and little rivers. He ought to be comfortable here. I am leaving everything to him, of course, except a few ornaments. I hope he will be happy when he gets used to being on his own. It's time he was his own master now. Everything, said Gandalf. The ring as well, you agreed to that. You remember. Well, yes, I suppose so, stammered Bilbo. Where is it? In an envelope. If you must know, said Bilbo impatiently, there on the mantelpiece. Well, no. Here it is in my pocket. He hesitated. Isn't that odd, now he said softly to himself? Yet, after all, why not? Why shouldn't it stay there? Gandalf looked again very hard at Bilbo. And there was a gleam in his eyes. I think, Bilbo, he said quietly, I should leave it behind. Don't you want to? Well, yes. And no. Now it comes to it, I don't feel like parting with it at all. I might say, and I don't really see why I should. Why do you want me to? He asked. And a curious change came over his voice. It was sharp with suspicion and annoyance. You are always badgering me about my ring. But you have never bothered me about the other things that I got on my journey. No, but I had to badger you, said Gandalf. I wanted the truth. It was important. Magic rings are, well, magical, and they are rare and curious. I was professionally interested in your ring, you may say, and I still am. I should like to know where it is. If you go wandering again, also, I think you have had it quite long enough. You don't need it anymore, Bilbo, unless I am quite mistaken. Bilbo flushed, and there was an angry light in his eyes. His kindly face grew hard. Why not? He cried. And what business is it of yours anyway? To know what I do with my own things. It is my own. I found it. it came to me, yes. Yes, said Gandalf, there is no need to get angry. If I am angry, it is your fault. Said Bilbo, it is mine. I tell you, my own. My precious. Yes, my precious. The wizard's face remained grave and attentive, and only a flicker in his deep eyes showed that he was startled and indeed alarmed. It has been called that before, he said, but not by you. But I say it now, and why not? Even if Gollum said the same one, it's not his now, but mine. I shall keep it, I say. Gandalf stood up. He spoke sternly. You will be a fool if you do, Bilbo. He said, you make that clearer in every word you say. It has got far too much hold on. You let it go, and then you can go yourself and be free. I'll do as I choose and go as I please, said Bilbo, obstinately. No. No, my dear hobbit, said Gandalf. All your long life we have been friends. And you owe me something. Come, do as you promised. Give it up. Well, if you want my ring yourself, say so, cried Bilbo. But she won't get it. I won't give my precious away. I tell you. His hand strayed to the hilt of a small sword. Gandalf's eyes flashed. It will be my turn to get angry soon. He said, if you say that again. I shall. Then you will see Gandalf the Grey. He took a step towards the hobbit, and he seemed to grow tall and menacing. His shadow filled the little room. Bilbo backed away to the wall, breathing hard, his hand clutching at his pocket. They stood for a while, facing one another, and the air of the room tingled. Gandalf's eyes remained bent on the hobbit. Slowly, his hands relaxed and he began to tremble. I don't know what has come over you, he said. You have never been like this before. What is it all about? It is mine, isn't it? I found it. And Gollum would have killed me if I hadn't kept it. I'm not a thief, whatever. He said. I have never called you one. Gandalf answered, and I am not one either. I'm not trying to rob you, but to help you. I wish you would trust me as you use. He turned away, and the shadow passed. He seemed to dwindle again into an old gray man, bent and troubled. Bilbo drew his hand over his eyes. I'm sorry, he said. But I felt so queer. And if it would be a relief in a way, not to be bothered with it anymore, it has been so growing on my mind lately. Sometimes I have felt it was like an eye, looking at me. And I'm always wanting to put it on and disappear. Don't you know, I'm wondering if it is safe. And pulling it out to make sure I tried looking it up, but I found I couldn't rest without it in my pocket. I don't know why, and I don't seem able to make up my mind. Then trust mine, said Gandalf. It is quite made up. Go away, and leave it behind. Stop possessing it. Give it to Frodo, and I will look after him. Bilbo stood for a moment, tense and undecided. Presently, he sighed. All right, he said, with an effort, I will. Then he shrugged his shoulders and smiled rather ruefully. After all, that's what this party business was all about. Really, to give away lots of birthday presents. And somehow, make it easier to give it away. At the same time, it hasn't made it any easier in the end, but it would be a pity to waste all my preparations. They would quite spoil the joke indeed. It would take away the only point I ever saw in the affair, said Gandalf. Very well, said Bilbo, it goes to Frodo with all the rest. He drew a deep breath. And now I really must be starting, or someone else will catch me. I have said goodbye, and I couldn't bear to do it all over again. He picked up his bag and moved to the door. You have still got the ring in your pocket, said the wizard. Oh, well, so I have, cried Bilbo, and with my will and all the other documents too. Oh, you had better take it and deliver it for me. That will be safest. No, don't give the ring to me, said Gandalf. Put it on the mantelpiece. You'll be safe enough there till Frodo comes. I shall wait for him. Bilbo took out the envelope, but just as he was about to set it by the clock, his hand jerked back, and the packet fell on the floor. Before he could pick it up, the wizard stooped and seized it and set it in its place. A spasm of anger passed swiftly over the hobbit's face. Again, suddenly, it gave way to a look of relief and a laugh. Ha, well, that's that, he said. Now, I'm off. They went out into the hall. Bilbo chose his favorite stick from the stand, and then he whistled. 3 dwarves came out of different rooms where they had been busy. "Is everything ready?" asked Bilbo. "Everything packed and labeled." "Everything," they answered. "Well, let's start." Then he stepped out of the front door. It was a fine night, and the black sky was dotted with stars. He looked up, sniffing the air. What fun to be off again. Off on the road with wolves. This is what I've really been longing for years. "Goodbye," he said, looking at his old home and bowing to the door. "Goodbye, Gandalf." "Goodbye, for the present, Bilbo. Take care of yourself. You are old enough and perhaps wise enough. Take care." "I don't care, don't you worry about me. I'm as happy now as I have ever been, and that is saying a great deal. But the time has come. I am being swept off my feet at last," he added, and then in a low voice, as if to himself, he sang softly in the dark. "The road goes ever onward, down from the door where it began. Now, far ahead, the road has gone, and I must follow if I can it with eager feet until it joins some love. I cannot say." He paused, silent for a moment. Then, without another word, he turned away from the lights and voices in the fields and tents, and followed by his 3 companions, went round into his garden and trotted down the long, sloping path. He jumped over a low place in the hedge at the bottom, and took to the meadows, passing into the night, like a rustle of wind in the grass. Gandalf remained for a while, staring after him into the darkness. "Goodbye, my dear Bilbo. Until our next meeting," he said softly, and went back indoors. Frodo came in soon afterwards, and found him sitting in the dark, deep in thought. "Has he gone?" he asked. "Yes," answered Gandalf. "He is gone at last. I hoped until this evening that it was only a joke," said Frodo, "but I knew in my heart that he really meant to go. He always used to joke about serious things. I wish I'd come back sooner just to see him off. I think really he preferred slipping off quietly." "In the end," said Gandalf, "don't be too troubled, he'll be all right. There, he left a packet for you. There it is." Frodo took the envelope from the mantelpiece and glanced at it but did not open it. "You'll find his will and all other documents in there, I think," said the wizard. "You are the master of Bag End now. And also, I fancy you will find a golden ring." "The ring!" exclaimed Frodo. "Has he left me that? I wonder why. Still may be useful." "It may, and it may not," said Gandalf. "I should not make use of it if I were you. But keep it secret, and keep it safe. Now I am going to bed as master of Bag End." Frodo felt it his painful duty to say goodbye to the guests. Rumors of strange events had by now spread all over the field, but Frodo would only say, "No doubt, everything will be cleared up in the morning." About midnight, carriages came for the important folk. One by one, they rolled away, filled with full but very unsatisfied hobbits. Gardeners came by arrangement and removed, in wilt, those that had inadvertently remained behind. Night slowly passed, the sun rose. The hobbits rose rather later. Morning went on, people came and began by orders to clear away the pavilions and the tables and the chairs, and the spoons and knives and bottles and plates, and the lanterns and the flowering shrubs and boxers, and the crumbs and cracker paper, the forgotten bags and gloves and handkerchiefs, and the uneaten food, a very small item. Then a number of other people came without orders. Bagpipes and boffins and bulges, and other guests that lived or were staying near. By midday, when even the best fed were out and about again, there was a large crowd at Bag End. Uninvited but not unexpected. Frodo was waiting on the step, smiling but looking rather tired and worried. He welcomed all the callers, but he had not much more to say than before. His reply to all inquiries was simply this: Mr. Bilbo Baggins has gone away, as far as I know, for good. Some of the visitors he invited to come inside as Bilbo had left messages for them. Inside, in the hall, was piled a large assortment of packages and parcels and small articles of furniture. On every item was a label tied. There were several labels of this sort for Artilachuk. For his very own, from Bilbo, on an umbrella. Artilot had carried off many unlabeled ones. For Dora Beck, in memory of a long correspondence with love. From Bilbo, on a large wastepaper basket. Dora was Drogo's sister and the eldest surviving female relative of Bilbo and She was 99 and had written realms of good advice. For more than half a century. For Milo Burrows, hoping it will be useful, from B.B. On a gold pen and ink bottle. Milo never answered letters. For Angelica's use, from Uncle Bilbo. On a round convex mirror, she was a young Baggins and obviously considered her face shapely. For the collection of Hugo, brace girdle from a contributor on an empty bookcase. Hugo was a great borrower of books, and worse than usual at returning them. For Lubelia Sackville Baggins as a present. On a case of silver spoons, Bilbo believed that she had acquired a good many of his spoons while he was away on his former journey. Nobelia knew that quite well. When she arrived later in the day, she took the point at once. But she also took the spoons. This is only a small selection of the assembled presents. Bilbo's residence had got rather cluttered up with things. In the course of his long life, it was a tendency of hobbit holes to get cluttered up, for which the custom of giving so many birthday presents was largely responsible. Not, of course, that the birthday presents were always new. They were one or two old of forgotten uses that had circulated all around the district. But Bilbo had usually given new presents, and kept those that he received. The old hole was now being cleared a little. Every one of the various parting gifts had labels, written out personally by Bilbo. And several had some point or some joke. But of course, most of the things were given where they would be wanted and welcome. The poorer hobbits, and especially those of Bagshot Rope, did very well. Old Gaffer Ganji got 2 sacks of potatoes, a new spade, a woolen waistcoat, and a bottle of ointment for creaking joints. Old Rory Brandybuck, in return for much hospitality, got a dozen bottles of old wine, a strong red wine from the South Farthing, and now, quite mature, as it had been laid down by Bilbo's father, Rory quite forgave Bilbo and voted him a capital fellow after the first bottle. There was plenty of everything left for Frodo. And of course, all the chief treasures, as well as the books, pictures, and more than enough furniture, were left in his possession. There was, however, no sign nor mention of money or jewelry. Not a penny piece or a glass bead was given away. Frodo had a very trying time that afternoon. A false rumor that the whole household was being distributed free spread like wildfire, and before long the place was packed with people who had no business there, but could not be kept out. Labels got torn off and mixed, and quarrels broke out. Some people tried to do swaps and deals in the hall, and others tried to make up with minor items not addressed to them, or with anything that seemed unwanted or unwatched. The road to the gate was blocked with barrows and handcarts. In the middle of the commotion, the Sackville bagpipes arrived. Frodo had retired for a while and left his friend Merry Brandybuck to keep an eye on things. When Otho loudly demanded to see Merry bowed politely. "He is indisposed. He said he is resting. Hiding. You've been," said Lobelia. "Anyway, we want to see him, and we mean to see him. Just go and tell him so." Merry left them a long while in the hall, and they had time to discover their parting gift. Of spoons, it did not improve their tempers. Eventually, they were shown into the study. Frodo was sitting at a table with a lot of papers in front of him. He looked indisposed to see the sack of baggage. At any rate, and he stood up fidgeting with something in his pocket. But he spoke quite politely. The sackful of Bagginses were rather offensive. They began by offering him bad bargain prices, as between friends, or various valuables and unlabeled things. When Frodo replied that only the things especially directed by Bilbo were being given away, they said the whole affair was very fishy. "Only one thing is clear to me," said Otho, "and that is that you're doing a seedy well out of it. I insist on seeing the will." Otho would have been Bilbo's heir, but for the adoption of Frodo. He read the will carefully and snorted. It was unfortunately very clear and correct. According to the legal customs of hobbits, which demand, among other things, 7 signatures of witnesses in red ink. "I've foiled again," he said to his wife. And after waiting 60-year spoons, dandelions, he snapped his fingers under Frodo's nose and stomped off. But Lobelia was not so easily got rid of. A little later, Frodo came out of the study to see how things were going on, and found her still about the place, investigating nooks and corners and tapping the floors. He escorted her firmly off the premises, after he had relieved her of several small, but rather valuable, articles that had somehow fallen inside her umbrella. Her face looked as if she was in the throes of thinking out a really crushing, parting remark, but all she found to say, turning round on the step, was, "You live to regret it. Young fellow, why didn't you go to... You don't belong here, you're no Baggins, You're a brandy buck, did you? Hear that, Mary? That was an insult, if you like," said Frodo, as he shut the door on her. "That was a compliment," said Mary Brandybuck. "And so of course, not true." Then they went round the hole, and evicted 3 young hobbits, 2 boffins and a beaver who were knocking holes in the walls of one of the cellars. Frodo also had a tussle with young Sancho, old Odo, Proudfoot's grandson, who had begun an excavation in a larger pantry, where he thought there was an echo. The legend of Bilbo's gold excited both curiosity and hope, for legendary gold mysteriously obtained, if not positively ill-gotten, is, as everyone knows, anyone's for the finding, unless the search is interrupted. When he had overcome Sancho and pushed him out, Frodo collapsed on a chair in the hall. "It's time to close the shop, Mary," he said. "Lock the door and don't open it to anyone today. Not even if they bring a battering ram." Then he went to revive himself with a belated cup of tea. He had hardly sat down when there came a soft knock at the front door. Not Billy again, most likely, he thought. She must have thought of something really nasty, and I've come back again to say it. "I can wait," he went on with his tea. The knock was repeated, much louder, but he took no notice. Suddenly the wizard's head appeared at the window. "If you don't let me in, I shall blow your door right down your hole, and out to the hill," he said. "My dear Gandalf." "A half a minute," cried Frodo, running out of the room to the door. Come in, come in. I thought it was Lobelia. Well, then I forgive you. But I saw her some time ago driving a pony trap towards by with a face that would have curdled new milk. She had nearly curdled me, honestly. I nearly tried on Bilbo's ring. I long to disappear." "Don't do that," said Gandalf, sitting down. "Do be careful of that ring, Frodo. In fact, it is partly about that I have come to say a last word." Well, what about it? What do you know already?" "Only what Bilbo told me. I've heard his story, how he'd found it, and how he used it on his journey." "I mean, which story?" "I wonder," said Gandalf. "Oh, not what he told the dwarves and put in his book," said Frodo. "He told me the true story. Soon after I came to live here. He said you had pestered him till he told you. So I had better know too. No secrets between us, Frodo," he said, but then not to go any further. "It's mine anyway." "That's interesting," said Gandalf. "Well, what did you think of it all?" "If you mean inventing all that about a present, well, I thought the true story much more likely, and I couldn't see the point of altering it at all. It was very unlike Bilbo to do so anyway, and I thought it rather odd." "So did I. But old things may happen to people that have such treasures if they use them. Let it be a warning to you to be very careful with it. It may have other powers than just making you vanish when you wish to." "I don't understand," said Frodo. "Neither do I," answered the wizard. "I have merely begun to wonder about the ring, especially since last night. No need to worry, but if you take my advice, you will use it very seldom, or not at all. At least, I beg you not to use it in any way that will cause talk or rouse suspicion. I say again, keep it safe and keep it secret. You are very mysterious. What are you afraid of?" "I am not certain,"